This on? All right. Well, thank you for having me up here, and I hope the energy's good. You can see I'm squinting because there's an awful lot of light up here I didn't expect. So, first is, did everybody get a copy of the case? Everybody read the case? Okay. This is actually a very high-risk event for GoEd, because normally when you do a case study, you have 50, 60, maybe 90 people in a room. They're all cluttered together. You don't need any kind of mics. You can hear everybody's comments, and you try to get debate going. That's the whole point of it. Everybody in the room should put themselves in the shoes of the protagonist in the story. What would you do? And it doesn't matter if you've worked in the ingredient business or a food business or finance or whatever. Everybody has an opinion, and everybody has an opinion based on their own experiences. So you get this experiential outpouring of everybody that tries to think about what they would do. And if I do my job right, we'll get everybody in the group talking about it, okay? That's really the purpose. So for me, it's low risk, because all I have to do is ask some questions and see if I can get some debate going. But from the GoEd people, if it doesn't work, it might be, not the best outcome for them. This is the 4th time I've been at GoEd, and Adam told me if it doesn't go well, I won't be able to come to the 5th. So I'm dependent on you guys. Okay, so before I start, I want to thank the case study companies. Okay, Adam talked about the idea that we're going to be exposing them. We're going to be talking about them. We're going to be criticizing them. It actually is not true, because what we're doing is we're trying to project what they should do. We're not looking retrospectively. We're not looking at what they did and saying, oh, no, you shouldn't have done that, right? Both of these case studies talk about this forward-looking challenge and what should they do, and everybody in the room can sort of hopefully connect with it and say, what's the next piece we're going to look at, okay? All right. So with that being said, the case process, just real quick on that. There was a little handout that explained it, but there's really 3 key parts. The first part is you write a case and you read it. And when you're reading it, hopefully you're thinking about some of the questions in the case. What would I do? What are their options? How do they look at it? The second part is this group discussion, okay? The protagonist from the case, in this case, Iago, he's in the room. He's going to stay silent, and he's going to listen to everybody's comments. And then once we talk for about a half hour or so, we're going to allow him to come up, and he's going to address the group. And he can address the group on what he's thinking, what he's hearing, what are the good points, what he's already looked at, and then we'll see if we can add to the whole learning for everybody in the room, okay? So is it high energy? Do I have to get everybody doing calisthenics, or are we good? We're good? All right. Now, while we do this, normally what happens in a classroom setting is the person in front would write things down on a board and everything. But because it's a large group now, we have to do things using the computer. So Ellen's going to help us, and she's going to type things up for us. And then we have people with mics. We have Gerard, Harry, and I think Mike out there. So as we get some comments, you're going to try to go to the mics, or they're going to come over and hand you the mics, okay? So the first question I have to get things going, how do you get the picture of the...
Put the clicker right there.
This one? Oh, okay. So my first question to the group is, imagine that this is Iago's kitchen, okay? You've read the case. You know about their technology. You know about their ability to take fish oil and put it into different products, supplements and foods. I want to focus much more on the food side, because I think it can give us a lot of instructive learning. But imagine this is his kitchen, and he's sitting in there and he's having his morning coffee. He's trying to put his plan together, and he's trying to figure out, if I look at my kitchen, where are the foods that I'm going to go approach first? And then who are those companies? Do I go to the companies that put foods in the refrigerator? Are they in the cabinets, the pantry shelves? If it's in the pantry, is it cereal? Is it powder? Is it powdered milk? Is it infant formula? What do people think? Come on. All right, you see this list here? This is a list of people I can cold call. Gretchen.
Well, I think first you'd want to think about... my first idea would be something that a food that people eat every day. A common food that people eat every day that they're, going to consume, so they don't... And how could you... What vehicle would be a good food?
Okay.
What food?
Excellent. Anybody want to build on that? Yeah? Thank you very much for joining in.
Because of the instability of EPA and DHA, it should be a short shelf life food, so like milk.
Perfect.
Not a coffee creamer maybe, because that might sit around for a long time.
Great. Anybody else? So we heard, you obviously, you want to target something that's short shelf life. You want to handle, put it in something that's a staple that people are eating all the time. Anybody have any opinion on whether it should go into a dry food, a wet food, things like that? Adam?
I think it depends on your life stage. If you're a parent, the type of foods you would have would be very different. You might try to get into a cereal for your kids or something like that. But if you're single, you might have a cup of coffee every day. So you might want to try to get it into something like a hot beverage, which I know has stability challenges, but that's the challenge that you might want to focus on, depending on what you think the audience or your target consumer is going to be like in the future.
Okay. Yes, Steve?
I would also want to take another look at the perhaps the infant formula market. Those were some pretty interesting statistics earlier today about the growth in certain markets.
Yeah. Infant formula, always very attractive. Who in the, by show of hands, who in the audience has sold ingredients to food companies? Not that many. Any of you want to share the experience? Is it particularly relative to selling to supplements? What's it like? I mean, because let's have another show. How many people in the room have never sold an ingredient to any company? How many are just not in ingredient sales? They've never been on a sales call. Okay, and then how many have never sold an ingredient to a food company? Okay, so you might not have a perspective on whether it's difficult or not difficult and what it's like. There are some people in the audience from Cargill. I'm sure they could, with a lot of a food experience, they could tell you some things. But tell us, what's the experience with selling to a food company?
Have a very, very patient time window, 24, 36 months, and be prepared to cut your price in half. If it costs more than a penny a serving, they don't want to do it.
Interesting. Somebody else? Yes.
I think the key is knowing what your ingredient is trying to achieve in that recipe with the customer.
Okay, so
From
say
a
more
sales
about that.
point of view.
Tell me more. What do you mean?
So what characteristics your ingredient is having in the final product, what characteristics it's bringing into the recipe
Okay.
and the formulation. I think that's one
Okay.
key selling point.
Okay, very good. Somebody over here, yeah? Melody? Harry, you got to move quicker, buddy.
I think too, it's from a food company perspective, it's probably important to be able to put a meaningful amount in a single serving, so that people can get something that's beneficial with one intake.
Very big thing, right? Efficacious dose. Very big, yeah. Yep, somebody else?
Yeah. From my perspective, it would be very important to have a food company that is prepared to put a lot of cash into marketing this new product. That is, I think, key. I mean, unless I want to do like a Me Too, so if you do milk and you have another milk brand, then they might just jump on the train. But if you have a new type of category fortified with omega-3, definitely they need to put cash in. And I think what also is important is that it has a fit, so that people are not surprised to find EPA, DHA in that product. I think like for milk, it contains fat anyway. So putting in a fat, another fat, a healthier fat, from my perspective, makes more sense than putting it into orange juice, for instance.
Okay, so something that has credibility in the product. Yeah. David?
Yeah, to build upon what Oliver said, first of all, you have to have a carrier of food that is perceived as being healthy. So it's not a surprise to find something healthy in that particular food. And I think for food companies, the most important thing, my experience has been, is organoleptic profile. Does it taste good? Food companies, food is food first. And if it doesn't taste good, it goes nowhere. And certainly with regards to the omega-3 world, that can be a big challenge.
Okay. Somebody tell me, when you go into the food companies and you have technology, do the food companies say, wow, this is great, just give me all your data, we're going to run with it? How does that, does that happen? Do they say, oh, you got this study and you've got stability and you've got that, that's great, I'm going to use all that data, I'm just going to put it in the product, put it on the shelf? Does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, my experience back in my Cargill days was that the food companies often kept all that stuff close to to their chest. I mean, they didn't want to share that information with their suppliers. They felt like they knew how to do everything better than the people who were making this very special, very volatile ingredient. And that applied not only to the food technology side, but also to the marketing side. They weren't interested as much in consumer insights from omega-3 suppliers.
Anybody else? Other perspective? Yeah.
I'd say as an ingredient supplier, you have to be able to show the CPG company you have demonstrable, solid consumer concept data showing that the consumer is willing to pay a premium, and ideally a steep premium, at least 10% for the fortified finished product with your ingredient inside of it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, when you're selling as an ingredient supplier selling to a food company, you need to have demonstrable quality control defined before you even enter the door.
Okay. Melanie?
Thanks, Harry. This is on? Yeah.
So he used to be a bodybuilder, now he's doing all the
Yeah.
cardio.
Now he's a runner. That's all of his omega-3s that he takes. I can't take off my regulatory hat, but just thinking too, you have to be sure that it's permissible to add into the food category that you're intending, because there are some standardized food compositional guidelines where you would have to go through some regulatory procedures in order to be able to add to a certain food category.
So one of the things that I'm struggling with, and you guys tell me if it's right, Biosearch Life is an amazing company. It's a small company, about 130, 140 people, about 40 people in R&D. How do they have something that's special? I mean, is it special? Do they go to a food company? They go to an infant formula company? Do these companies actually say, wow, we're going to take it? In the case, it said they've been doing it for almost 20 years and nobody's really caught up to them. Is that right? Everybody believe it? Is it possible a small little company like that can actually develop the technology that lasts that long, that nobody else has really been able to quite catch up or duplicate? It's okay. Iago can take the criticism. I'm just curious. It's an opinion. I don't know. I've tried the omega trace milk in Spain. It's wonderful. Anybody? Good, Adam. You know something about omega-3s.
I have lots of opinions too. I mean, to me, I think you look at the omega-3 milk that Puleva launched, and part of the reason that was so successful is because at the time Biosearch was an internal division of Puleva, and so they were working with a partner. And I think that some of these challenges that we're talking about up here are ones that are barriers to having a partner customer. And that's really what it takes in the food industry is with an ingredient like this that's so special, you have to find a customer that's willing to be a true partner with you and work very collaboratively, where you're equal, you bring equal contributions to the table.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, when I read this case, I was looking at the market size, and if I'm not mistaken, I may have gotten it wrong, but there's 2014 GOET data saying that the market is 45 million euro. Is that correct? Am I getting it all wrong?
I'm not
because
sure
that's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not growing. So I mean, let's get the next subject on. It's not interesting at all.
Okay.
I don't want omega-3 in my milk. What doesn't have anything to do there.
What about other categories? Is this a technology that can extend? Is that where the opportunity is? I mean, granted, we didn't give a lot of detail on the technology, but what's your gut? Is this something that, if it works in milk, should it work in yogurt? If it works in yogurt, should it work in, sauces? I mean, is it extending categories? Is that, if we go back to the kitchen, is that where it is?
I'm going to play with a little advantage here. I was marketing director for Puleva for 6 years.
Okay, you've got an objective opinion. Go ahead, let's go.
No, it has to do a lot with the brand credibility to support that. Not just any milk company cannot do it.
Yep.
Puleva had a reputation of doing healthy food, healthy milks. It was the first one that did vitamins, the first one that added calcium to a milk in Spain. And then they went one step forward and they added the omega-3. And again, what they searched for was always, it had to taste like milk. there was no renunciation by the consumer. The consumer did not take a step backwards, he took a step forward all the time. And that's why it was a success. I mean, there's many other features, but it was a milk where the profit was more than triple than the standard milk. So it had a lot of impact on the P&L because it didn't cost triple, but it was, you could sell it for like 50% more than you sold the standard milk. So it was very, important for the company in those terms.
All right, excellent. Anybody else? Yeah.
I can't speak to European brands. Looking in the United States, the Monster brand in milk is organic value milk, okay, with really the dominant market share with the omega-3 content, which sells for roughly a 100% premium over standard organic milk. I think that the questions I would have would be, obviously they're able to achieve success without specialized technology. So is the value proposition clear?
Anybody else? All right, let's talk about timelines. Yeah, in the case, Iago has a hefty challenge, right? He's going to try to grow. And by the way, the numbers are off a little bit. We didn't get the latest numbers in there. Their sales are about $1 million higher, and they grew 10% last year, which is good progress, so that was good. But he still has to grow $12 million in the next couple of years. It's a hefty challenge. Granted, it might not all have to come from the fish oil side, because he's got 2 other business lines, but it's a big challenge. With that as a perspective, how do you, energize the sales? What are the things you look for? What are the things he has to pay attention to try to get a significant increase in sales in a very short time frame? For instance, if he talks about technology, is there enough time to develop a new platform? Whatever technology you use for omega-3 milk, can he use that, or does he have to develop a new platform? And if he does do that, how long it'll take? Yes. You stretching? No? Well, could have been my first cold call. How about somebody else? Seriously, is it something that they can use their technology now? Do you have a gut feel for that? Is there enough time to develop technology? Anybody develop technology that goes for something into foods? Anybody in the room do that? I know there are companies in here. Yeah? How long does it take to develop technology for a platform that can go into foods? Does it happen in 6 months?
No. Depends what the technology is. If you want to be an ingredient supplier or a technology supplier to a food company, you usually have to come to them with a prototype that has been proven, and whatever the shelf life is, generally real-time shelf life stability. So if it's going to be something that sits on the shelf for a year or 2 years, you want to come with real data for a year and a half. If it's something that's in the refrigerator, it's obviously less. But part of that process, you put together hundreds of prototypes, and you kind of weed them out. And I've worked in the past with teams of flavorists and food technologists, and specifically on the omega-3 side, I think we started with, we'll say, 200 different permutations and formulas, different flavors, different formulas, different technologies. At the end of, I want to say, 4 months, we had 2 flavor/technology combinations that might work. So that's
Okay.
In terms of technology development. And so that gives you a very, after we'll call it 6 months, a very limited potential, a specific flavor profile and a specific, stability technology. So if one wants to make that more robust, you can, extrapolate how long it might take to be able to have different flavors, different technologies, different food matrices.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else? Somebody else has experience putting something in foods? Yeah?
I would just say, looking at the powder, I'm assuming that their powder technology they've worked on for a long time, so it's got stability. And then looking at extending that application into other dry powder type premixes or consumer-ready products that are a powder where you're not having to reinvent a technology, you're basically just kind of following along in a powdered mix, so to speak. And I think the chances of success on that are probably much higher, assuming that the technology has already proven itself out.
Okay. Somebody else? Yeah?
You know, what's interesting to me in looking at the data is if they grew 10% in the past year, what did they do to be so successful in this past year? I mean, the prior years have been much more flat. So I'd be actually looking as much at my sales staff and asking them, you know, what has happened here in the last year to create this success, and then see if we can extrapolate on that growth. Is that a trend? Is it something we can build on? Is it something? And I'd be as inclined to be looking at my technology and my sales, because to grow that much, that fast, it's going to be extremely difficult on a technological side, if you ask me, and maybe me more about market penetration and getting out into the field, studying the market more thoroughly and finding where are the soft spots in the market. That's, to me, how this is practically achieved.
All right, good input. Anybody else? Yes, in front, right now.
I think the huge and the potential market will be in China. So technology is not a problem. The problem is how to develop the market in China, how to develop this potential market in China is very important in the future.
Okay. That's an excellent segue, actually. So let's take that point. If you take China or even other companies. So we've talked about all the challenges of foods. We've talked about some of the challenges of being a small company, of having technology and qualifying it and all those things. What's good about working with a food company? There's got to be something good about it, right? You know, there are certain companies that just focus on it. I'll use somebody like Glambia, for example. I don't think they're in the room. I mean, you know, they're consistently trying to figure out how to get things in foods. That's their mantra. They do stuff in supplements, but by and large, when you bring something to them, that's what they want to figure out. How do we get in foods? They love the food business. And there are other companies that don't like the food business for a variety of reasons. Anybody have any feel for what's good about working with a food company? Yep.
First of all, volumes are essentially much higher. Again, depending on which segment you go for. I can give an example from what I'm working on, which is not really omega-3, but it tells the story. We were developing an ingredient which is a cognitive solution. For many years, it's been going for cognitive solution. And we were stuck with exactly the same thing. We didn't see any growth. You know, people are aging, so we saw some growth, but not very much. And we did want to see an improved growth. And we took the idea of the gentleman here that we have a powder form, what else we can do, and we were discussing with food companies. And today we're selling it for sports nutrition. You were talking about Glambia, for example. The volumes are much higher.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else? You sell to foods? You like food companies? Rick?
Yeah, just to add to that last comment, I mean, it's difficult to get the product application to be successful, but if you are the supplier that does that, and that product goes to market, and that product's successful, then you're guaranteed to be the supplier of record for a very long time. So there's a big win at the end of this whole process.
So big payoff once you get it in. You're like an annuity, yes.
I think the convenience factor. Consumers want to go out and reach out for a product that says omega-3 versus going out and buying a supplement because that's more expensive. It's not a necessity, but they want to drink milk. They want to, give milk to their children that's fortified with omegas. So that becomes an easier choice.
Okay. Anybody else? Let me ask about pricing. How does it work with food companies? Is it the same thing as supplements? You just come in, it's so much a kilo, and that's it? Or is it different? Is the contracting portion of the business differently? Is it better? Is it worse? Anybody have a feel for that? Anybody in the room like royalties? Are those things good? Usually there's a price to pay, right? Anybody have experience with anything like that? Okay, let me put it another way. All right, you're going to put it into a food company's product, and they think it's going to do 100 million in end product sales, okay? And they want a price from you. How do you price it? Do you price it on first lot production costs? Do you make a bunch of assumptions on getting up to scale, that you're going to be up to scale in year 3, so the first 2 years you won't be up to scale? Is it a simple thing? Is it difficult? How do you do it? Phil? Yeah? Adam?
I mean, if you're comparing the food and the supplement industry, I think the food industry acts much more like a traditional consumer products company, where 85% of the products fail in the first year. So if you're making a big technology investment, I think you would want to have some guarantees to be able to recoup that investment early on. In the supplement industry, I mean, there are supplements that sell almost no volume but stay on the shelf for 20 years. And so I think that it's a different dynamic, and you need a different reward system.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's Rick again. I think the biggest thing is you'll always get a lot, if it's interesting technology or an interesting application, you'll always get the involvement of the R&D or the technical group in a food company. They always like to play around. They're always working. They've got a zillion projects. But if you don't have early on the buy-in of the marketing team who are owning that P&L for the brand, it's a losing proposition. You can do all the work, you can make it work, and then it can be stopped at brand level because the added cost, the premium cost just doesn't work on a P&L. So you really need to have that cross-functional involvement from the get-go.
Okay. Good point. Excellent. Time for one more comment. Anybody? One more? Yep. Right here. He's right there. He's got a mic for you. We want to get you recorded.
I can think of a lot of things to put into food.
Yep.
This is probably the worst kind of a product to try to put into food because of its lack of stability, more than any other one thing.
By worst, you mean most difficult?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most technically demanding.
Yeah.
And mainly because of taste and because so few people really like the taste of fish. They want fish that has a very mild nuance, but they don't want anything that really tastes fishy or smells fishy. And so, I mean, there's very few foods that you want to open in your kitchen and have your kitchen smell like fish.
Okay. Thank you.
It's tough.
Yeah, excellent point. Okay, that was a very good job. I appreciate everybody's input. I appreciate you sharing things. It's not easy to try to be candid in a group like this for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why you might not want to be pulling as much scrutiny onto the problem as you can. But what I would like to close with is, number one, there is no right or wrong answer. Okay, this is all opinions. This is all looking on a bunch of data. Just like in the business world, sometimes you need to make a decision and make a point with insufficient data. That's exactly what we're doing here. So there's no wrong comment, okay? The second thing, and probably the final thing about Biosearch Life, my opinion is it's all around competency. So all of the things that they have facing that are very, very difficult are doubly difficult for any company that's not already in the business. Okay? I think the key for them is they already have the technology. Their competency is how they work with companies, and their R&D, and when they go to a customer, is very small r and very big D. It's how do we take a technology we have now and apply it to the application, and they've been doing it for 20 years, and that's their secret. And then with that, they understand how to price it, and they understand how to get in the market, and they understand how to do things, and I think that's their forte. Okay? So I really appreciate everybody's input. Now we're going to give the floor to Iago, and he's going to give us some input on the way he's looked at the problem, what he's thought about it, and what he thought of the group. So thank you very much. Iago?
And thanks to the audience for the magnificent questions and opinions. I have many things in my kitchen now. I think we could discuss generally about all, but of course you have to take into account that we have been thinking about these questions for many, many years, so many of them are already solved and stable for us. Regarding selling to a food company, yeah, right, I completely agree. This is a long timeline, medium-term, long-term projects that arise after a lot of work. And that is, of course, related to the growth. Maybe we are start growing now because we have been working hard in having big projects, and the results are coming today. So we know strategically when we can grow 2-digit, and if we could, or we are going to be able to achieve 30 million growth. On the other hand, this 30 million growth is not only in omega-3. We have other business lines with really high potential. For example, probiotic. We count on that also, but the fact is that omega-3 in food is also a really potential business line for us, and I think we are doing things really well. Helen, can you go up a little bit in the word, because I think we have, okay. Of course, on the other side, food supplements are being taken, not sometimes, but food is something that people is eating every day. So, regarding the organoleptics, if you have some food, the organoleptic is the same and is being supplemented with omega-3, why not? I think people would take the challenge and take the food enriched with omega-3. We have seen the market today, the advantages, the application, so I think this is not a problem. Short shelf life, of course. EPA, DHA are really sensitive compounds against oxidation, light, oxygen. So in foods, short shelf life are expected, but that's something that we can solve, and we have already solved. This milk that was launched in 1998, Manuel was commenting on marketing aspects. Of course, branding and marketing is really important in order to sell this kind of milk, but this milk is the second most sold omega-3 product in the world. They sell nowadays 100 million liters of omega-3 milk only in Spain. So, of course, our question, our approach is to expand the model worldwide. We are working on that. Regarding infant formula, that is also here, of course, we are working in infant formula too, and big projects are coming here. If you have a good oil, it's not only an aspect of money or cost, as somebody was suggesting. You have to find a reliable source to do the wet blending, dry, be stable in a product, room temperature, 24 months. Many things to take into account. Another ingredients are together with the omega-3. It's not only that you have to stabilize omega-3 in matrix. You have many things together with the omega-3 that can affect minerals. If you have milk for kids, for sure, food company would say, I want iron, I want protein, I want calcium. So all that kind of interactions, you have really to have a total control of all the ingredients in these formulas, and this is something that we have been developing all these years. So we have already developed these formulas. We have already done a stability test on final product, and we have in-house the capability of developing this product in pilot scale and industrial scale to offer a ready formula to our clients. Of course, the profit of this kind of milk, it's 50%, yeah, in some cases, but of course, competition after first launching is quite hard. You have different price levels in this kind of omega-3 milks, but of course, it's more expensive than a normal milk. The grew, as I commented on before, 10% this year, quite a good value. We are expecting double digits again for next year, but also bigger growth in order to achieve expected growth. And technology is completely related with shelf life, but not only that. We have to take into account ingredient, process, stabilization, and application. It's not only that you have the best oil, the best process, you have to achieve the best stabilization system in order to achieve that your product is completely stable, and it will be organoleptical stable in the food matrix that you would like to implement on. In that case, you will be successful. If, as somebody said, you have in your kitchen full of products that are smelling fish or tasting fish, you will not succeed for sure. Regarding geography, of course, this model is not only in Spain nowadays. We have been prospecting and doing work in many other countries, and not only in milk. It's not a matter of using only milk as a matrix. Of course, I think personally that the best example in which one omega-3 from fish, because Biosearch Life is only working with natural fish source. So in a plain milk without masking agents or flavor, I think is the really more difficult case in order to implement a fish product, because this plain milk is really sensitive flavor, really common flavor for the population. So if we can do this in plain milk, we can do it in liquids in general, but not only that, in powders, flours, breads, gums. We have been working in many other matrix. China or Asia Pacific. In China there is a huge market of enriched milks with DHA. They have the technology, they have the volumes, but what we have observed is that there is no regulation in the amount of omega-3. So they usually add really small quantities of omega-3. They put, this contains DHA, but we are going further with them. We are achieving high levels of DHA in our milks or liquid products, above 100 milligrams per 100 mils of milk. So we are talking about completely different things. The volumes in China are huge. Every milk is supplemented with DHA. Kids' products are in infant formula and functional foods, in particular milks, are a big sales product in China. Regarding the price, of course, an oil that is going to be used in food, regulatory is different and also different from the infant formula. The requirements are really, really, really tough. So you have to start from a really high quality raw material. You have to do a really gentle process in order to maintain bioefficiency, biodisponibility of the oil. And after that, you have to stabilize it in order to be suitable to use in food applications. That is the main secret. Apart from that, you have to keep the know-how with you, but also you have to be capable of producing a wide range, not 2, not 5, a wide range of examples of applications already tested by you, so you easily offer a finished product to your clients or the food companies. Stability challenge, of course, this is always challenging. We are working constantly in developing new strategies against oxidation, new stabilization systems, new optimization of our refining. All these aspects is what you have to take into account if you want to be successful implementing the omega-3 in food matrix. I think I've been covering most of the questions, but feel free to ask any specific one if needed. Somebody?
Hi, Iago. It's not a question, it's just a comment or an addition. When you talk about the Chinese market and the milk and the incorporation of omega-3 into the milk. We are from France, from Normandy, who produces a lot of milk in Normandy. So there are a lot of Chinese capital invested today, more than 50% of the milk produced in Normandy and in Brittany as well is directly exported into China today. And this is a trend where you have a lot of investors from China who have selected this region for the quality of its milk. So maybe you should come to see us in Normandy and incorporate your omega-3s directly at origin. Just an idea.
Thanks for your suggestion. We are already doing that. We are in contact with Chinese companies that are producing in Europe, mainly for functional foods, but also for infant formula. They are dry blending here or introducing omega-3 here, and they are sending the final products to China. But thanks for the comment. I appreciate it.
Just one question, just sort of, maybe it's too obvious, but did you ever think about putting your product into fish? There's a whole range of, white flaky fish that really don't offer much of an omega-3 benefit. And for example, like fish fingers, is that something you could explore so that you could actually have a child-friendly fish finger that would deliver the promise of the omega-3 that fish seems to imply?
Nice question. Thank you. We worked many years ago in some frozen fish project containing omega-3. It was not that successful at that time in the market. Of course, new opportunity can arise, but you have to take into account that these kind of fishes are always, you have to fry them or boil them. It depends on the time. It depends how the omega-3 is incorporated in this kind of matrix. But I think it would be a good idea in order to develop new products.
Hi, one suggestion as well. It seems like you'd want to attack the low-hanging fruit. And in the U.S., you have, school lunch programs or schools that you could target, partner with those type of folks who are drinking milk already, right? You could add and fortify. It would seem like that would be an easy sell there, right, with good outcomes data. In addition, you could also, I suppose, target prisons if you had good outcomes data and show reductions of costs, with the addition of a product like this, just some thoughts. So.
We are aware of some of that programs, but the truth is that in our history we have not been focusing in the state too much because of the size of our company. As Tom said, we are quite a small company, so we have to focus and target in our strategy. Nowadays, of course, we are targeting the United States. We have been working in the past with some companies introducing omega-3 in wet blending for flour.
Iago, this is Adam over here. I'm curious, it seems to me like the 100 million liters of milk in a country the size of Spain, that's a higher per capita rate of consumption than dietary supplements of omega-3s in any other market in the world. I mean, this is by far the most consumed product per capita in existence in the omega-3 market. What would it take for other countries to consume that much omega-3 fortified milk?
Well, that's completely truth. I mean, 100 million liter milk is a huge volume, but Spain is typically a country where people consume milk. If you think in other type of countries, milk is worldwide consumed. So if we could introduce some omega-3 in some of these countries, I think the impact would be really, really high.
Just as a follow-up real quick, but I guess my question is why aren't other countries, because certainly omega-3 milks have existed in other countries, but why haven't other countries adopted omega-3 milks like Spain has?
Okay, sorry. The fact is that, as I said before, you need really to believe in the concept and support it with quite initial investment in branding and marketing. So this is something that some food companies are not ready yet to do, even if they know about this case. That's why this is going slower than we would like this to happen. But on the other hand, we are achieving really good results with big companies in the past years.
Over here.
Hi, Largo. Glenn Elliott here from Omega Ingredients. I think our companies are quite similar as far as business models. What's your opinion on the recent EFSA favourable opinion with regards to DHA and the brain health claim?
Can you repeat? I can hear you clearly. The
What's your opinion on the recent EFSA opinion with regards to the DHA and brain health associated health claim? Do you think that's going to give fortified foods a leg up in Europe? Should it be regulated?
Yeah, well, in Europe, EFSA is doing quite a good job regulating the amounts of intake. This milk, Puliva milk, was targeting cardiovascular health, not cognitive or brain health as DHA. But of course, they developed formulas for kids or for brain development containing DHA. And Asia Pacific is talking about DHA. Today, we have been talking about DHA, so of course DHA is main target.
I guess to satisfy that health claim from ages 2 to 18, we will need to be adding 250 milligrams of DHA. Do you think you will be able to achieve that level with your omega-3 product into, let's say, the milk product that you're currently in?
Yeah, we have already done it. It's not that, of course, there's no point in taking 3 liters of milk per day in order to achieve that levels. But we have any other choices. We can do shots. We can put high amounts of omega-3 nowadays in many matrix. So we can achieve these levels. Also, in infant formula, EFSA will be doubling the quantity. So this is another target that we have to achieve in order to have a perfect organoleptical talking products. So this is something that, of course, we have taken into account. Thank you.
One more over here. Last one. Okay, we're good.
We're good. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to take a 15-minute coffee break now, and then we'll come back and do the second case. Thank you.